guys, welcome to Cosplay Stitch and Seam. I'm Pennon.
And I'm Fire.
And I'm David.
It's David!
Yay! It's me!
So hi, how's it going? We are here for an episode. If you guys would like to reach out to us, we love to hear from you. You can hit us up at our email, which is cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com, or
you can go to cosplaystitchandseam.com and fill out the Google form there on our contacts page, or
you can go to our Facebook page and tell us your message there. You can message us on our group or our page. And while you're there, join us and join the Work in Progress Wednesdays. Also, while you're on the internet, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever a podcast lets you submit a review, and we will give you a shout out on the show. And of course, we've got our Patreon, patreon.com/cosplay stitch.
you got it.
I did. I pulled it up this time. I'm prepared.
Nice.
also our Ko-Fi is still going.
Oh,
Or Ko-Fi,
our
by the way.
account?
Yes, Ko-Fi account is still going. Just letting people know that, just in case you thought that maybe we got rid of it because we have Patreon now. No, it's still there. It's still there.
We'll accept any help that you're willing to offer.
Yes.
But for $3 a month, we'll give you a shout out on the show, and $5 a month, you get access to our live stream where we play D&D, and it's all cosplay themed, and it's getting intense, and I'm super excited about it.
Left it on a cliffhanger.
Yeah. By the time this episode releases, though, we'll have gone past the cliffhanger, right?
The next cliffhanger will come up.
Yeah. So yeah, be sure to check that out. You'll be welcome to the live stream as it's happening every month, and your decisions in chat and stuff can influence the story. So,
oh yes,
yeah, join us. It's a lot of fun.
It's good
All
stuff.
right.
So today, our topic is going to be big armor in cosplay, and we have a special guest today who's made big complex pieces of armor like the Necromancer from Diablo 3, various versions of Samus's various suit, and even more. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, thanks for having me on. My name is Ansley Bircher, also known as Pigtails and Power Tools, or Pigtails Power on Instagram. I am a professional cosplayer. I've been cosplaying for about 7 years now, and professionally about 3 of those. I work at Evermore Park, being in charge of the entire costuming, armor, prop department and merchandise.
Whoa.
So mostly I do a lot more armor build things, molding and casting, and leather crafting and sculpting.
Oh, nice.
She's got all the skills.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So you said you'd been cosplaying for about 7 years. How did you get into it in the first place?
So I first heard about it, I want to say when I was about 12. Maybe like 10 or 12. There was actually a documentary about Dragon Con that I swear was on PBS, but somehow it was on the TV, and I was like, whoa, what is that? And it captivated me for forever. But there wasn't really anywhere for people to go to conventions here for a while other than Anime Bonsai, and FanX came into being, and I went its first year, and I actually ran into Mercedes. You were actually one of the very first people I ran into, and I made Princess Zelda from Twilight Princess. Loved it, got hooked, and I've been doing it ever since.
Awesome. So I'm curious then, since you started out with stuff like Zelda, what made you start to lean into bigger builds like armor suits?
I liked how much detail they had. And I found I had an easier time with armor than I did sewing. Mm-hmm. And I've really enjoyed it. Something really just clicked with me more with armor rather than sewing. I'm not super great at sewing.
It's a hard same. I can put foam together so much easier than I could stitch any seam.
Yeah. There's so many different stitches and walking feet, and it scares me.
Walking feet are magic.
So I've heard, but they look like the feet of Satan.
Oh no. Oh dear.
Oh, that's beautiful. So how did you come up with the name Pigtails and Power Tools? Like, everyone who's in cosplay, they've got, cosplay pseudonyms and whatnot, and like yours is just so fun. I love it, and I want to know how you came up with it.
Oh, thank you. So when I was trying to come up with a cosplay name, I was going in between Pigtails and Power Tools and Armored Maiden. I wanted to do something that was different but kind of gave people an idea of what I made. So it's like, oh look, it's this cute girl, but she works with power tools and makes armor. So I was going in between the two, and Pigtails and power tools really, for me, I liked it more. It rung with me better, so I decided to go with that.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely. I think it represents your branding really well. So I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
For sure. So your big like armor creations that you put together, like how much time do you spend planning them out before you actually start building them? Or is it like part of the process? Is it kind of like trial and error and you just kind of wing it? Like what is your plotting process?
So it's usually a little bit of both. The very first big armor build that I did was Samus, my Varia suit. And the way that I went about doing that was I was going in between, like, should I do Warbler? Should I do foam? And I originally tried making it out of foam, and I got halfway through just the fabrication part, and I was hating how it was looking, and I threw it away. And then I heard about something called Pepakura, which I don't use too much now, but at the time, it blew my mind and was insanely helpful for getting a really good suit. And Pepakura is a papercraft program that takes 3D models and then turns them into a foldable and gluable paper piece. So it's like really intense origami.
It's super cool. My first Master Sword and Hylian shield was actually from Pepakura's paper museum or papercraft museum. And like, yeah, that stuff's super cool.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's still, Pepakura is like pretty helpful, but then 3D printing became much bigger, and people just don't really use Pepakura anymore. There's not really quite a need. It's still another tool on the belt, so it shouldn't be forgotten. But yeah, 3D printing has really kind of replaced Pepakura in a way.
Well, Pepakura even has they don't do just paper folding; they can actually make patterns for EVA foam now.
That's right.
So
yeah.
you can actually, so it's learned to expand and adapt with the times.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
I was going to mention that it takes like a 3D model and it can like unfold it and tell you where all the like slices and cuts and things are. If you guys listening at home are interested and want fun ways to start a 3D build.
It's pretty cool. You can do it again out of paper, or you can have it unfold as like foam, and it's so fascinating.
And the best part is it's free. Pepakura is free.
Yes. Do you know, Mercedes, does it take into account like the thickness of the foam when it does like the foam patterning?
I have no idea because I have not used it because I hate foam.
I can confirm it does not.
Okay.
That one I know for sure, certain, because it's just so used to like paper and how to fold with that. And it doesn't take into consideration of like, okay, well, you'll need to do like an inseam cut on your foam here, fill it with glue so it holds that edge. It doesn't consider that. I think there's some other stuff. I know that Odin has been kind of doing a combination of Pepakura and this other thing, like Armor Maker.
Right. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Oh my gosh, yes.
And like that does a better job of like combining those two aspects with the foam.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Oh, that is cool. I did not know that.
So I know like there's definitely a learning curve getting the paper model to anything with a thickness.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, tell us about your Samus.
Yeah, so that I discovered Pepakura, and that's what I ended up using for pretty much the whole entire costume. It helped me out a lot, but
and your costume was super dope.
Oh, thank you. That was such a huge achievement for me when I first made that, and now I look at it and I'm like, oh, I can do so much better. Oh.
Even still, like that one went decently viral, didn't it? Like,
yeah,
you posted photos of it and progress, and people just went nuts over it.
Yeah, it got on Reddit, Imgur, and Twitter, I want to say. And it was just like everybody saw it. It was like, oh, yay. Oh, God. Oh, people have seen me. Okay. Yeah, that Samus really helped me kind of launch into basically my career now. because shortly, about 4 months after that costume kind of went everywhere, I ended up doing some work with Red Bull Media House and going out to events, like creating costumes for them, going out to events, being there, and it was incredible. And it was just kind of a snowball effect into other jobs and into other working with other companies, and then the job that I have now.
Nicely done.
That's awesome. So I'm curious, like, when you were talking about like planning out Samus, what did you actually end up making it out of, since you didn't go with foam?
Oh, pretty much the whole thing is made out of Pepakura. The thighs are made out of EVA foam covered in fiberglass and autobody filler. I would not recommend using fiberglass and autobody filler. Yes, you can get some pretty cool effects, but holy cow, is it toxic and sticky and messy. Like, not only is it chemically messy and smelly, the sanding gets everywhere.
Yep.
Oh man.
And it's a nightmare to clean up.
I hate body filler.
I'm curious how your process has evolved since then. How do you pattern if not Pepakura?
So I've gotten to the point where I do a lot of painter's tape patterning and kind of figuring out pieces. I love
that method.
Oh, it's so helpful. Oh, I love it.
It's so nice. It's like you tape your arm and then you take it off and you're like, that's my arm. Yeah. It's right there.
It's fantastic. I love to do that method, usually for Worbla pieces that I do. Also, recently, what I love to do the most, if I have enough time and enough funds, I like to sculpt my armor and then do a mold and cast it. Because you can get beautiful, beautiful pieces with molding and casting your armor. And in a way, it kind of actually saves you a little bit of money and space.
Oh, really?
Because you can just reuse the clay.
Oh, yeah. Why don't you walk us through what's that process look like?
So, to give an example, about 2 years ago, I was contracted to work on a film, a web series. It hasn't come out yet, but I'm okay to talk about it, called Dreamfell, and I was contracted to create all the armor and the props for it.
Nice.
And the way that I did it, I originally fabricated the armor out of foam, and then I sculpted on top of it. And it's a bit hard to explain. It's easier visually, but what I did is I dragged down the mold walls a bit further from the actual master, so that when I poured my resin in there, it wouldn't slosh all over the place. It wouldn't pour out of the sides. I'd actually have kind of more of like a tube I was pouring into.
Oh, okay.
So I created that piece, put mold release on it, did what's called a jacket mold, which is essentially pouring silicone over it, thickening up, and layering out your silicone, putting in registration keys, getting either plaster or plasti paste, and then creating a jacket on top of it. And then I'd let that all cure, and then I'd get resin. I tint it black, always tint it black, because if paint scratches off, there's not a bright white plastic underneath. It's black. It's easier to hide. I actually learned that from Richard Taylor from Weta Workshop.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And then you have this awesome piece. Once it's all cured, you pop it out, and then you can actually rivet it with metal rivets and leather, and you have a pretty nice, solid, good piece.
Oh, nice. What's the learning curve like? I'm curious for that. Like, did it take you several tries to kind of master how you do it? Did you find like a good tutorial online? How did you learn about that process?
Luckily, I was really fortunate to be able to get to learn from a few other masters here in Utah that work in the film industry. Seven Heads, 10 Horns, Troy Allen Larson's company, and also Logan Long. He was on Face Off.
Yeah, I was like, I know that name.
Yeah, he's awesome. They're both awesome guys. And Pal Arts Workshop, who also does beautiful armor pieces. They were my supervisors and director at Evermore, and they were able to teach me a lot. And it was really helpful. So the first time, I was kind of on my own because I learned it the first time in my basement. But then I discovered these other people who had been doing it for years, and I was able to pretty much hover over them and watch them what they were doing, and they were able to give me notes and tips.
Man, it's been like so amazing watching just like how much you've just taken off with all of this, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because again, at that first year, Comic-Con where we met, like, that was my first time competing in Masters, and I got my butt whooped. And like, just like seeing like what you were building back then to now, it's just like, oh my gosh, Ainsley just got so much.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm so
It's
proud
been
of
a
you.
journey. Thank you.
Let me ask you, when you are doing like a movie kind of situation, are you like they obviously they give you kind of character drawings, or they tell you like, hey, this is what we're working with, but when it comes down to like the tools of it all, do you just say, hey, these are the tools that I need, or do they just give you an expense credit card and say, go buy what you need and come back with a receipt? How does that work for you?
So if you're putting in, you want to do something for a company, you can create a bid and say it'll cost X amount of dollars to create these 3 suits of armor. And usually a lot of other companies will say, hey, like, well, we can do it for a cheaper amount, or we can make it nicer, it'll just be more expensive. And then usually the person who's interested in the product then decides who they want to go with. But if you have someone come to you, for instance, like I did with that web series, they ask like, hey, this is what I'm thinking of. How much would this cost? So then I break things down, and I usually find a way of like, okay, what is their end product? So for this film, for example, the props that I made, they only had enough money for the props that would work for actual fight scenes and also just still shots. So I had to find something that wouldn't kill the actors, but would also look good in still shots. And I ended up finding this resin that's it's more of a dense rubber, and there's some flat bar running through it so that it still keeps its shape. But I took it to a steel railing just outside of our warehouse, and I smacked it on the side of the railing, and it didn't crack, didn't flex. It was perfect. And like, so I ended up sending that out to them. That was part of the budget I had to tie in, because rather than being like, okay, here's the soft, cushy foam version when your actors are actually fighting, and here's the actual oak and steel one for the beautiful shots. So usually it's finding out what their needs are, how much money they have, and how much time they have. Because if they only have a week, you're looking at probably okay, this is a quick foam prop piece that costs this amount of money. But if they only have a week, but they can give you, for example, like $10,000, then you can probably take off work for the week and actually make something really nice. So it's a lot of negotiating and figuring out what they need as an end product.
I remember having to do something very similar to that with K-Face TV, and when he did the Solo short film that he did. And I helped with the costuming on that, and I'm like, listen, you like list out all these things, like, how's their budget, how much can you actually do for them? And it's like, yep. Yeah. It's and it's so stressful too, because like you want it to be super good for them, but like your stress levels like go through the roof.
Yeah, you're not only are you worrying about the crafting side, you're also worrying about the paper and business side. And you're like, oh, if you're able, you can usually get somebody to do the paper side with you. I'm lucky that I sometimes have someone to help me do that. But yeah, if you're just independent, sometimes you don't have that.
Yeah, for sure.
Just like, and okay.
So since you've worked from everything from like foam and pepakura to resin to metal and leathers, what is your favorite material to use for your personal projects?
It depends. It depends usually on the time, how much time I have, but I love to create something that I like to actually work with Warbla still.
Oh, nice.
Warbla, molding and casting armor pieces, and also leather. I love to have something look and feel real.
Yeah.
And with resin casting and the sculpting process, you can do a lot of great effects that have a piece look beautiful. And then when you mold it, you can do a lot with a paint job. Sometimes paint can make or break a piece. And
right on.
With resin casting and with Warbla, you can actually rivet in metal rivets with leather and your piece will be fine. My necromancer that I've created from Diablo 3 is pretty much all Warbler, some resin cast pieces, but all of the attachments are leather. I've carved out all of the leather pieces, dyed them, and riveted them onto the armor.
Seriously
Dang.
beautiful work,
That's
too.
so cool.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
That is awesome. So I'm really curious because the materials you're mentioning all have like very different weights to them. For someone who's like just getting started, like how would you recommend dealing with things that could be potentially very heavy and unwieldy to deal with?
I would start off foam. And if you want to get into armor making, start with foam and then go into the other mediums. Because foam, I still use foam today. I'll use foam prop pieces for film at my job, for even my own personal stuff, because it's really quick, it's cheap, and it's forgiving. If you screw up on something, just throw it away. Try again. Foam is cheap and it's pretty much readily available.
Nice.
It very much is. So one thing I've noticed like over the years is that you've changed a lot with like the different materials that you've used, because you've used a lot of them. You have a lot of experience with them. Like, I forgot where I was going with this question. Like those choices and whatnot, they've changed a lot over the years. And I noticed it like with your two different various suits for Samus. You've got the original various suit, the first one that you put together. And you had like a post on Facebook, I think, or you were mentioning like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how heavy that old one used to be. Now my new one is, so much lighter. Oh, why can't my brain remember which one you just did? Which suit?
Oh, I did the original 1986 NES power suit.
Oh,
yes, the power
nice.
suit, that's right. And it looks so cool.
Thanks.
So like, as you've evolved with all of these, I guess this is less of a question, more of a, I am in awe.
Thank you.
Also, I freaking love Samus, and you do such a good Samus. Like that video, that short film that you did like 4 years ago. I just like every now and then just like pull that up and watch it. I'm just like, that's so dope.
Thank you. Oh man, I think about that film like all the time. Oh, I loved it so much. That film was so much fun to do. And then actually the YouTube channel that I worked with to create that film recently came back, and they're starting to go back into film ideas. So that was exciting.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, we made that whole thing in about 7 months' time, and like our budget was $3 at a gum wrapper.
Oh, dang.
We pretty much just like, okay, what do we have available? Ansley, what do you have available? And let's just go with it. So
go with it. And it's like, how they did the shots for that were really cool. Like every angle, every take. I don't know. They should be really proud of what they put together for that. And you should be really proud of your freaking suit that you put together for that and your acting skills. Like you're so serious and so much emotion, so much action. Like,
thank you.
I'm gonna cut Mercedes off because I want to know.
I'm gushing hardcore.
No. Well, I'm cutting you off because I want our listeners at home to know how they can find that video.
Yeah, so you can find this video on YouTube through the Ideas for Hollywood YouTube channel. It recently got its name changed, so you might have a harder time finding it. However, if you type into YouTube Metroid live action film, you'll be able to find it that way. It's about 5 minutes. And if you look up my social media, you'll see my face. Look for my face in the thumbnail, and that.
Voila, you got it.
Nice. Very cool. Because of an earlier question Mercedes asked, I'm really curious now. What's the heaviest suit of armor you've made?
Oh, yes.
Ooh, Samus and the helmet of my necromancer. I hate that helmet so much. It's beautiful, but I hate it.
I remember you making that and like watching you do it on your social media. And like you were using, it looked like some sort of putty. Is that right? Or was that 100% clay?
Yeah, both actually. So the clay putty that I was working with is called Magic Sculpt. It's an epoxy clay, which you can get beautiful beautiful filigree and intricate details with on armor. However, the downside with it is that its weight adds up fast.
Yeah.
And I had, on the helmet, there's not too much of the Magic Sculpt epoxy clay on the helmet. The thing that really weighs it down is all of those hallelujah gold spikes on the back disc. Those are all solid plastic and they're quite dense. So with the weight distribution on that helmet, all of the weight is towards the back of my head and
that's rough.
pulling on the back of my head the whole time I'm wearing it. I think that helmet weighs about 15 pounds.
Holy crap.
Jeez.
Yeah, so a lot of the photos that you actually see me and the Necromancer with, there's very few of me wearing the helmet because it's so heavy that it hurts me to wear. The first time I wore it, actually, I had to go to the doctors after the convention because I had screwed up my neck so much.
Oh,
jeez. So we've talked about like your favorite materials and what you like to build your bases off of and things like that. But what about like the fine detail work? Do you have any like favorite tools or techniques or tips for people who want to get like the really fun, intricate details?
So it usually depends on the details that you do. But for example, if you want to get more of an effect like on my Necromancer, all of that beautiful gold details that I've done, that's all with epoxy sculpt. Now, it's
nice.
a 1-to-1 ratio, so your clay comes in 2 different buckets. You want to wear gloves, but you get an even amount from each half, mix it together. You have about 30 minutes to an hour to work with it, depending on how much you've mixed up. And you can smooth it out with water and just your fingers.
Oh, nice.
And you can get some beautiful details and curls and swerves. It's so nice to work with. But the downside with it is that it's a little heavy and it takes a while to cure.
How is it after it's cured? Can you like sand it and still work with it?
Yeah, you can sand it and carve it down. You do want to wear proper PPE protection when working with it though, because you don't really want to breathe in the dust.
You don't want to breathe in gross dust.
Corona dust.
Oh no!
I was gonna say, David, once the Corona thing is over, if you want to try some of it, I have a bunch of it here.
Yeah, I don't know if for those of you who are on the Facebook page, I think I bit off a lot more than anyone could ever chew, and I decided like I'm gonna make this giant headpiece from the Hollow Knight games, and I'm gonna try and do the Hollow
I saw
Knight.
that. Yeah.
Is it Hollow Knight's helmet?
So
is it his head?
No, it's like a helmet. It's a Gajinka that somebody on Reddit posted, and I was like, "Hey, can I cosplay this?" And they're like, "Only if you send me pictures, please."
Yes.
So like, it's got like the cracked eye with the infection going on in the eyeball, and I'm just sitting there, and I've been thinking about it ever since I posted that. I'm like, okay, how do I even put this thing on, and what's inside it supporting it? And so, yeah, no, like that's really good to know. Thank you, Mercedes.
No, that actually segues really well into another thing I wanted to ask about, because Ansel, you talked about like how your helmet was kind of unwieldy, and David's talking about how this other thing is very unwieldy. Do you have any advice for like weight distribution and maybe like how you're setting up your harnesses and whatnot when you're wearing the armor?
Yes, think about what body piece it's going on and the motion of it, and how traffic flows at the event. So with my Necromancer helmet, those spikes stick out really far and they're pretty durable. So if someone, for example, were to run by and smack one, my head would immediately just to the side and it would be very painful. I had a triangle of people escorting me around.
Smart.
No one would run into me and that I wouldn't get caught on anything.
Oh, man.
With the way that I would go about, I don't know exactly what this mask design looks like, but the way I would go about making it, I would sculpt it out of an oil-based clay, and then I would do a mold of it and do a slush cast, so you have a thin plastic wall around the whole piece, and it still has a little bit of weight, but not too much, a bearable amount, and you can still wear it. And I would line it with L200 foam, or with a kind of chair foam.
That makes sense.
I will send a picture to Mercedes, and if you want to tell me that I'm insane, I will happily accept that. that there's just insanity levels of material and whatnot going on here.
I will give my honest opinion.
Thank you.
I've got the picture right now. I was actually just looking at it as she was like describing everything, and I'm like, okay, I see that. All right, then we got to do this and then do that, that's
I have no idea what this looks like. But
oh man,
let me send it to you right now. Hang on,
it's enormous.
Oh no.
He's beautiful. I want to preface it that he is beautiful.
I've seen people with Hollow Knight foam helmets, so they're actually Hollow Knight, and their heads are huge. Oh god!
Yeah,
oh dang!
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of
This is gorgeous.
Isn't it though?
It's
This
so
is very
pretty.
beautiful. This is actually kind of funny because the other day, so I love Hollow Knight. I'm a big fan of Hollow Knight, and I was rewatching the Hornet trailer because I'm excited. And
Silk Song.
I had an idea for actually like a Gajinka human version of Hornet as well.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm like, oh, that'd be fun to do, but we'll see if I get around to doing it. Yeah. Okay. You might be able to get away with fabricating this out of foam.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of weight, you're going to want to have most of the weight towards the front of your face, towards your nose and your chin.
Yeah.
You don't want it at the top because then it'll be top heavy and it'll be easier to fall off. So in this image, it's a front mask, but there's nothing behind it. We have no idea what it looks like behind. So I would actually make this into a helmet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then have that frontal piece on there. And you actually could, this is kind of weird, you could have...
The mask helmet.
Yeah, it's a mask helmet. You could have the wig on top of the helmet.
What?
Yeah.
That never even crossed my mind.
Oh yeah.
You want to blend it in well and like hide it, but literally no one would be none the wiser. They'd be like, my god, look, it floats so elegantly. And you're like, hey, joke's on you, it's got a harness.
I love that idea.
Nice.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I appreciate that, and it makes it just feel a little bit more attainable. Thank you.
Yes, you are welcome.
So you talked about helmets. What about stuff like body armor, like shoulders and chest pieces and whatnot? How would you go about rigging various harnesses for that?
So usually whenever I do armor pieces for myself and also for film, I go to history. I look at different eras and different ways that they rigged armor, because some weenie did this like 1,000 years ago. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to copy and paste what he did. Or I'm just going to copy what other people do for their armor rigging. But yeah.
No, we actually had a very like similar conversation about this with sewing patterning. If there's like a something you're cosplaying from a specific era, like definitely go do the research and find out how they made it back then. Because yeah, like you said, why go to all the effort of reinventing the wheel?
Yeah.
I love that.
Luckily, I actually was able to get my hands on some, like the history of armor. There are really awesome pictures of suits of armor from like the 14th century to the 16th century of really popular European armor sets. And they have beautiful pictures showing how they attached. So I usually will have, with some of my more recent armor pieces, as weird as this sounds, I have my pauldrons, my shoulder armor, they will actually tie onto the chest plate with strips of leather. Leather is pretty strong and will hold on most pieces, but if you have a piece that's really heavy, for example, my Samus shoulders, I used nylon cording and clips, like parachute black buckle clips. And that didn't go anywhere. I wouldn't really recommend Velcro for something that's really heavy. Velcro works great for really light foam armor pieces, but for something heavy like my Samus pauldron, I would either use leather buckles, leather strips and buckles, or nylon cording and black plastic buckles.
Nice.
Good to know.
So you kind of touched on this earlier, but what advice would you want to give beginning crafters? I know you said foam. Are there any like resources, tools online, just tools in general that are good for like a beginner craft set?
Yeah, I would start to get comfortable with a Dremel and a box cutter.
Ooh, okay.
Those are the bread and butter of most prop makers, and they really go a long way. And it's also handy you can't always have this, but if you have a small repair kit on you at the convention or wherever you may be, it's very, very, very helpful.
Nice. Well, what do you like? I know we all have different kinds of like cosplay repair kits or things we keep on hand at a convention. What would you say? What's in your toolkit if you have to take a set of armor to a convention?
Duct tape, safety pins, leather riveting set.
Ooh,
oh, really?
That's actually
Okay.
very clever. Yes.
Yeah.
There's been a couple times where I've been out and about, and I'm just like, I wish I'd brought that with me. Because this part just ripped.
Yeah. Oh, man.
man.
And I have had rivets pop at the convention. You're like, no! But it's kind of annoying to carry around the whole...
replace it.
Yeah. But you can just immediately replace it and it's done. If you have something, so say you have a nylon cord that just popped. That hasn't happened to me because I stitched mine on, but say like if you hot glued it because it was the night before, you can quickly just pop over, rivet through, hammer it down, and that shouldn't be going anywhere.
Nice.
Super glue, also very helpful. A mini stitch kit. In terms of glue, most glues they take a really long time to cure. So if you need something fixed right then and there, I would bring a rivet set or some super glue. I have brought a hot glue gun with me before. But the biggest problem with that is where are you going to find an outlet? There's not always one available.
That's smart.
I've seen a lot more popular these days is like UV resin. Have you used that for any like little fixes?
I actually haven't. I've seen it for a lot of people that make cute keychains from what I've seen on Instagram and stuff. I've wanted to try it out, but I don't know how strong it is, but I want to mess around with it.
From my experience, it's a little bit flexible depending on what type you get, but if you need something that like fixes instantaneously and is stronger than like a super glue or something like that, it's really cool. Like you can actually put together props and things with it.
That's way cool. I would say that actually reminds me of another kind of adhesive, JB Weld epoxy.
Oh yes,
that cures in about 5 minutes. So if you have some time, say like you're waiting in line for the cosplay contest, or you just had something break and you're not really doing anything in the moment, JB Weld epoxy clay, just bring some gloves, some scissors, measure out how much you need, snip it, quickly mush it together, and then pop it on wherever you need, and just wait. You're good.
Yep.
Oh, that's
we definitely want the gloves though, because it is.
Yes.
It is chemically.
And it's not good for the humans.
Yes. My husband uses that a lot. Actually, we broke our hamper the other day.
Oh no!
We used JB Weld to put the hinges back together.
Oh no!
So it's all fixed now. It's like it never broke.
So while we're on the topic of sad things and falling apart, we like to wrap up with a cosplay horror story.
Yes.
Do you or a wholesome story? Yeah. Do you have one that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, I can actually share one of each, a horror and a wholesome. So we'll start with the horror first.
Yes, please. Then we can end on a positive note.
Yeah. So this happened at Anime Expo a few years ago. It was when I was debuting my Necromancer for the first time with my friend Kenku and her Witch Doctor. We were debuting them together.
Awesome.
And this particular year at Anime Expo was way hot. It was like 850.
Just that year.
50-80% humidity. I know, right? Oh my gosh. It's like the surface of Mars.
Oh man.
It would get so hot that at night you couldn't go outside. It was still hot. And if you put your bare foot on the asphalt, you would get burned.
Ooh.
It was ridiculous. I have never had that bad of a temperature in LA before. So that gives you an idea of how hot it was. So Saturday, we were debuting our costumes. We didn't even put them on to go over to the photo shoot area. Our game plan was to load everything in the tote, get an Uber, wheel it over, quickly put everything on, take our photos, and take everything off, and then possibly go into the convention and put everything back on, because the convention was actually wonderfully cool. But outside, no. Outside, you're going to be crispy bacon.
Oh, no, thank you.
We were all dressed up. I was doing my photo shoot with my wonderful friend Mike Staffels. His photo's amazing. And I was dying of heat. I was overwhelmingly hot, but I felt like I could bear with it and deal with it, and I started to feel like, oh no, it's okay. It's all good. I was like getting more relaxed, and he stopped, finished his photo, and was like, are you okay? And my friend Daniel thankfully ran over to me. Was like, we're getting you out of this now. Like, you're shaking. I didn't even know. And I took the helmet off, and apparently I looked very pale. I was sweating buckets. Like, my clothes were completely drenched. I had sweated through my normal clothes. I was wearing underneath my undersuit. And the undersuit I was wearing, I was stupid. I wanted to be authentic. My whole undersuit for the necromancer is velvet. It's like genuine velvet. And it was drenched. And we started, my amazing group of friends, bless them, they started taking everything off of me, and I just started to feel worse and worse, started to feel nauseous, started to feel shaky. I started to get tunnel vision. We quickly took everything off. We got me back to the hotel, took a cold shower, and I was out the rest of the day.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, dang.
So, thankfully, I did not pass out. But I almost did.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that was a rough year. It was great, but yeah, that was a bit too spicy for me.
Just a little.
Yep. Dang.
So that was my horror story, my wholesome story. One of the things that I do here locally in Utah is I teach classes. I'll teach classes at Beck's Leather and Craft and Last Looks, Beauty and Effects Supply. And it's really cool and rewarding to see people get excited about something that they've made and you've taught them, and they take that thing that you've taught them and they just roll with it. You're like, oh yes, go my young grasshopper, I'm so excited for you. So I teach classes, and one FanX, I think I had just come out of a panel that I was a part of, and I was taking pictures with people and talking, and this dude in this epic dwarf armor with this hammer, it was like red and black and gold, it was beautiful, came over, and I was like, oh, your stuff is so good. He was like, oh, thank you. He's like, actually, I took your bracer class at Beck's like a couple months ago, and I took what you taught me, and I was able to make all of this, and I was like, oh!
That's so cool.
And he asked me and my friend Kenku to sign his axe, and I was like, are you sure I don't want to ruin it? And that was awesome. I think I got a picture with him. I'm pretty sure that I did. But that was really rewarding to see
Definitely
what you taught them and just continue on with it.
Oh, that's so cool. And do you still teach those classes?
Yes, I do. Unfortunately, due to the current world circumstances, I don't.
Right.
I still do when I'm able. I'd like to get to YouTube videos, but I'm very awkward in person, so I'm very awkward in front of the camera as well. So a bit hard.
I would like to disagree with that, because I met you. The first time that I met you was at Gaming Con last year.
Oh yeah,
and I was the awkward person. So like, don't even like give me any of that nonsense.
We'll be awkward.
I was like, I've been following you forever, and I can't make eye contact. I love your work, and it's so good, and I'm just gonna be over here now. Okay,
you're totally good.
Well, one more time, tell our listeners where they can find your stuff online.
So if you'd like to see my work, you can follow me on Instagram at Pigtails Power, Twitter at Pigtails Power, Facebook Pigtails, and Power Tools Cosplay Creations.
Yay! Thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome.
Hooray! Yay! If you guys at home would like to send us your cosplay horror stories, your wholesome stories, or just ideas for like episodes or comments, you can email them to us at cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com, or
you can send them to the website at cosplaystitchandseam.com and fill out the contact form there. Or
you can go to our Facebook page and let us know in the messages there. And while you're there, join our Facebook group to watch me, delve into insanity while I try and make this helmet, because although I'm filled with confidence, I'm filled with dread at the same time.
Make all the things.
Oh. And while you're on the internet, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or wherever they let you leave a review. I'll be more than happy to give you a shout out on the show. Also, you can join our Patreon, patreon.com/cosplay stitch, and you can join the awesome people that help make this show possible. For $5 a month, you get to join our D&D game, and for $3 a month, we give you a shout out on the show, just like Gloria Shue, who joined us. Welcome, Gloria. Thank you so much for being so awesome and helping us keep this show going.
Woohoo!
Hooray! Well, thank you as always to Macy Roberts for the use of our theme song, and for David Jeffress for his amazing editing. David, tell us about your podcast. What's going on?
So I'm hoping that by end of the month, we'll have at least episode 1 of the Curse of Strahd game coming up.
Oh, yeah!
I'm very excited because it's so different, but it's all the same characters that you know from Dungeons and Chill. So it's not new people trying to get kind of reacquainted with everyone. It's just run and gun kind of situation. And then on Comic Trades Monthly, we are doing Scott Pilgrim's Little Precious Life. By the time that this has come out, we'll probably have something else because we'll be recording on Saturday. So go over there to find out what we're going to be reading for next month. Yeah.
Hey, awesome. Thank you guys at home so much for listening. We love you lots, especially in these trying times. Remember to be that positive change you want to see in your cosplay communities. Until next time, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.